Good afternoon, DFS Army. It's Craig Bennett, aka Cash Cake, here with another NBA First Look for Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. It's a big 10-game slate. I'm getting this out a little late, so I'm going to do a little bit different than I'm used to. I'll go back to doing them the same way tomorrow, but today I wanted to get something out. So today I'm just going to go over some injury news that's major, and then just kind of talk about lineup construction for both DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm not going to go game by game like I have been. I'll go back to that format tomorrow, but I wanted to at least take the time to get something out today, and so I figured this might be the best way. It's a massive slate, on these 10 gamers like this, and so I think it's best to maybe just kind of talk through some lineup construction, and maybe that's the best way to do it here. So with that, we'll just jump right into this. But again, if you like these videos, hit that thumbs up for me, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you know when I upload these videos. And let's start building some lineups. All right, we'll start with DraftKings first, like always. And again, like I said, we're just going to build some lineups here with DraftKings and FanDuel. So the big news, I ain't going to go through all the injury news. I'll do it as I build out. But the big news is LeBron James is not going to play. We know AD's not there. Kyle Kuzma's questionable. Caruso's questionable. Gasol's questionable for Lakers. So there's going to be a ton of guys. Now, this game starts at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're going to be super chalky. I'm telling you that right now. It's how many is too many to play, I guess, is the situation here. Not knowing if Caruso or Kuzma is going to play, if those guys are out, they're going to have a real short rotation. These guys are going to be even better plays. But I think the guys that we can choose to put on our lineups are going to be good plays regardless. So I think, with not knowing what Kuzma is going to do, I think what you can do is just put Dennis Schroeder at 5,900 regardless. He's going to be super chalk, but no LeBron. Going up against Sacramento as well. It's a horrible defensive team. You can stack this game up on both sides. Over on the Sacramento side, there's no Whiteside. Jabari Parker's questionable, and also Halliburton is out. So again, it's just more solidified minutes for Fox and Hield. So again, Schroeder's going to be extremely popular. The four guys I would look at: Schroeder, Markieff Morris, Montrezl Harrell, and Horton Tucker. Of course, if Kuzma plays at 5,800, I think he's in play for sure. I'm not going to play Gasol either way. If he's in or out, he was out yesterday. I think on a slate this large, don't get too focused on all the value. But I think Schroeder is a good value. I think Markieff Morris. If Gasol and Kuzma are both out, with LeBron being out, he'd have to play massive minutes. And again, 3,700 here. He's played the last two games, 34, 24 minutes, 25 and 40 fantasy points. Only 3,700 on DraftKings. I don't think he's going to hurt you regardless. And like I said, if we get Gasol and Kuzma out as well, I don't mind pairing him up with Montrezl Harrell. 5,500 going against Sacramento. Only put up 12 fantasy points in 18 minutes, which is burned a lot of people that did go to him. But I think a lot of people were on Jokic last night, or Pirtle, or there's a couple other centers that were in play that I don't think a lot of people got burned. But the people in the late slate probably did, because I'm sure they went him starting. So didn't put up the best game, but I have no problem going back to him here with no LeBron James. They should run a lot of that pick and roll with Schroeder and Harrell. So if you want to go this at 5,500, these are the guys I would look at. Like I said, the guy with probably one of the bigger upsides at price is Horton Tucker at 3,400. When he gets run, he is a producer. He's over a fantasy point producer. So he's a guy that we got to look at. He's 0.90 for the season. But if I run the stats with AD and LeBron off, I bet it's much higher than that. But again, he could see 25 to 30 minutes depending on these other guys, and a guy that can really get it done. So at 3,400, I like him as well. Again, I don't think you need to play all these guys. I'll throw all four of them in this lineup. I think if it was me, I would probably just stick to three of them, and I would rank them maybe Schroeder, Harrell. I don't know. Schroeder for sure. And then it's two of these other three. If you don't want to play Harrell and you want to play Morris and Tucker at value, I'm okay doing that. Or if you want to play Harrell and then one of Tucker and Morris. I don't know if I'll play four of these guys, but again, we still 6 hours before lock. Things could change. But this is where I would start with your lineups. I would start with making these decisions with the Lakers, just because they're going to be super popular. We know they're going to be popular. There's going to be so much value. if you're on FanDuel or DraftKings, DraftKings might hit 400 as their top score tonight with all the value there is. It just probably is going to happen. FanDuel, you might be pushing 460, 470. It's just when there's a ton of value on the slate, it does get one of those things that, you're just going to have massive scores. It's like, people are like, well, I scored 370 and I didn't score anything. Well, if there's a ton of value out there, you're going to have massive scores. It has nothing to do with, slate by slate. It's all about the value, how cheap it is, and how much it goes off. And we have a ton of it here. And a lot of it that can go off. The next question is, what do you do with James Harden? He's going back into Houston. It's hard. Houston is so bad that I worry that the damn game's going to stay close. Now, if we look at the injury news in this game, Jeff Green is out, Kevin Durant's out, TLC is out. For Houston, still no Wood. Gordon is questionable, no Nwaba. House is questionable. Brooklyn is favored by 9.5, only 228.5 total. My biggest concern with Harden, we know Harden's going to do all the work with Irving. We have the value to get to him pretty easily. I think in cash games, you're just playing him. I think you're not even thinking about it here, and you're just playing him. So I think in cash games, you're like, here, we're going Harden. Put Schroeder down here at the shooting guard position. And I think you're building, these are going to be your point guard, shooting guard in cash games. The big concern, like I said, is does this game stay close enough to him warrant that price tag? He can get there in 3 quarters. Going back into Houston, I'm sure he's going to want to put on a little bit of a show here. It's going to be popular. And cash games, don't overthink it. And tournaments, again, there's other ways you can go. On a slate this large, we do have Lillard going up against Golden State, which is kind of he's 400 cheaper, but if that's kind of a pivot, it'll be like half his own maybe. Vooch against Atlanta, Cat against Charlotte. There's some other high price guys that you could look at to maybe, if you didn't want to go Harrell here, maybe instead of Harden, you go maybe a Vooch or Cat to be different. But in cash games, I would definitely start with these two guys. And then if you want to play all 4 Lakers, I think you can in cash, especially if Kuzma and Gasol are going to be out. They're going to play a ton of minutes. But I definitely would play 3 of them. I'm not sure about 4. But again, if you play all 4 of them, you got 6,800 left. So there's a lot of ways you can go with this. Again, there's so much value that, it's just, there's so many ways to go. So with this lineup, if you're going to keep going with it, we can look at guys in this forward position to fill out. We got 6,800 left for guys. We can come down here and run it on the other side, right? We know that Halliburton is out, so that should have more minutes for Holmes and Bagley. And we saw last game, Halliburton was out. Bagley got up to 35 minutes and put up 46 fantasy points. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen again, but this is not the same Lakers team with AD and LeBron off the court. They're not the same defensive team. So I kind of like running this back with Bagley at the forward position. I'm okay if you want to play him center and not play Harrell. Say if you want to play Tucker or Morris and then throw Bagley in there. But I think you need to run it back with 1 or 2 of these Sacramento pieces just at price and what they can do. Still leaves you 6,900 left in this kind of salary. This is just kind of like, again, building kind of out lineup construction, how I see it fit. Things can change. Another way you can go as well, if you don't like Harrell, or if you want to, in the same kind of deal, Busher against Detroit, they don't have any Siakam, they don't have OGs out. Siakam is out. McCall, Van Fleet is out. There's a ton of value here at Toronto too. So we want to get some of these guys in. So we want to get a Busher. We want to get a a Powell. We want to look at Lowry. So let's look at Lowry. Let's just go to Detroit right now because there's going to be so much value on this slate, and we're going to look at all these guys here. Kyle Lowry 8,100. He's going to be carrying the offensive load. Powell, I love that he's shooting guard, small forward eligible. In this lineup, he fits perfect. You can throw him in here, 6,700. We're left to 7,200 left. And again, like I said, there's a lot of things we can do here. If we don't want to play Harrell, we could play Bagley in this spot. And then we can kind of move some things around. Or if we want to keep this same kind of thing, you can put Busher here and maybe upgrade one of these other positions. I kind of like Powell at price, though, what he can do. like I said, let's look around. Let's say we don't go Harrell and we go the other two cheap guys, just to kind of play around with this. We say we go Boucher here, and then we come back out, and I still want to run Bagley, and I'm going to run Bagley here. At least it was 6,300 left for our last guy if we didn't run Harrell out here. And then that leaves us with Horford against Dallas. That's okay. Nobody that I'm like falling in love with in this spot. I really kind of want to get to Lowry. So maybe this is a spot in tournaments. You're like, well, I ain't going to go Harden in tournaments. I'm going to specify in tournaments. And we go Lowry. We go Lowry, Boucher as our Toronto guys, Powell. And we got 9,200 left in this lineup. And then we can get maybe a LaMelo Ball going up against, Minnesota team that's crap. Or a Zion or a Fox. Like, I love this a little bit more, not playing, going up to Harden here. Because Harden at 11K, he's got to hit over 70 before he really makes you nervous. And he could very much in this slate. And like I said, in cash games, I would definitely play him. But in tournaments, I don't mind playing these guys that are like this. You play a Lowry, he could get you 60 fantasy points. Boucher could put up 40 or 50. Powell could. We also can't. There's other value out there as well. Like you could look at with all these guys out in Toronto. You can look at Terrence Davis here at 3,400. So I like Tucker. He's a small forward. I don't really want to give up one of my shooting guard spots for Davis. That's why he's not in here. But he's another guy you can kind of look at if you want to throw him in here. So if we wanted to throw him in here, right, over say a Powell. If you wanted to go even more value studs and scrubs, and we got 11, 12, 5, you could easily throw in Harden in this lineup. And you got 1,500 to kind of figure out where we're going to upgrade. Or we're going to take the small forward position, kind of look for a guy here. Richardson or Hart. Nobody actually loving this. Maybe Richardson, but nobody absolutely loving this kind of range here. So I'm not super excited about this build. So just play around with it. Again, I think you're going to focus on the Toronto guys and the Lakers guys in cash games. Those are definitely going to be the guys you're going to focus on. That's where a lot of the ownership's going to be, but for good reason, because they're shorthanded. And then kind of build around with it, play around with it. Again, we'll have the cheat sheets up with the player rankings tab. I'll do those, and maybe that'll help you out to play around with a little bit of value and see where the core lands out. But this is how I see DraftKings. Let's move on over to FanDuel real quick. Again, completely different line of construction here, but you're going to be doing something very similar. It's a little bit easier to say fit in Harden in some of these things because, there should be a ton of value. So I think you're going to kind of start with Harden in these lineups. And again, Lakers, Toronto, just start with those guys when you start building your lineup. So let's put Schroeder in here. We know Schroeder's going to be in this. This is going to be your cash point guard build right here. Schroeder and Lowry. I have a hard time getting away from this in tournaments. They should just do everything. Now, they're going to be extremely high owned, and you can always fade chalk. But I don't know if that's chalk I really want to fade. I think when you play Harden, you're going to get a lot of Terrence Davis here. Like, I think he's a better fit on FanDuel than DraftKings just because of what it lets you do. So you put Terrence Davis at the other shooting guard position. And one thing I love that they did, I love that they moved Powell down to small forward because I love Powell way more than Terrence Davis. But what they did is a favor, and they moved Powell down to small forward. So now you got 3 Toronto guys here. I'm going to play a fourth one, man. Like I said, we're so short-handed. And I know Boucher didn't do great last game, but he's going up against Detroit right now. Last game put 20 fantasy points in 27 minutes. But if you're going to fade one of these guys, Powell and Lowry are a must for me. These are 2 guys that I'm going to have a ton of. Davis and Boucher, if you wanted to get different on FanDuel, that's where I would get different. If you don't want to play those guys. But again, Markieff Morris, I'm going to go right back to him here, paired up with Boucher. Like, this is going to be pretty popular. We're extremely heavy. We got Harden, and we're building around with our Laker and Toronto value, and we still got 7,100 left for 2 spots, right? So there's a ton of ways you can go here, and that's why I said I think you don't have to go Davis here at shooting guard. He's going to be super popular to get Harden in. And then Boucher, there's lots of ways you can go. It's a 10-game slate. There's tons of ways you can go here. You don't have to. I would rather go Markieff than Boucher, I think, just at price. But, this is going to be a chalk combo as well. Like tonight on FanDuel is going to be pretty chalky. So I guess it depends on what you're going to do here at center. I think that's a big deal here in this build. So you have this build out. Are you going to go mid-range these two guys? Are you going to go pay up for one of these guys? There's lots of ways to go here. Are you going to go, DeAndre Jordan up against, Houston? Are you going to look at something like him? He put up 38 and 35 minutes against the Spurs. And Houston, we know, don't have any bigs, so he can absolutely crush. So let's say if we put Jordan in here, we got 9,100 left at the small forward position. Where's that kind of leave us at? Probably around Brandon Ingram, but again, it's not a spend up spot here. Ingram's probably your best bet going against Chicago. It's a pretty weak position. I like Harrison Barnes a lot too, with no Halliburton. He's going to play a ton of minutes. He's been real consistent in his last 3, ton of minutes, 41, 50, 41. Say we slide Harrison Barnes into this lineup, right? And we have a ton of money left, 2,300 left. This is if we ran Jordan. If we come down here and say, okay, well, where can we upgrade this? Playing Plumlee or Holmes. I don't mind doing this. If you wanted to go just a full stack here, where we got 4 Toronto guys and we're stacking this game completely up, I don't mind doing something like this. I think this is a slate you can leave money on the table as well. But this is where I'm saying I don't think you need to go at Bushner or Davis. I think you can change one of these guys out and move these pieces around. It's going to be super popular, the Davis-Harden combo. Just letting you know that right now. So if you want to get different, maybe something you do here, instead of Davis, you go, Horton Tucker instead. And then you got 7K left. And then you go down here and you go still Rashawn Holmes or Plumlee, which I'm perfectly fine with. Harrell, all this. I think this is kind of the build I will look at going. And again, I don't mind leaving some of the salary on the table. So even if I got this, I got 400 left. It's probably going to be a pretty chalky build, but it's kind of the way that I would kind of lean things, and you're not going to be winning any money until late at night when you have this many guys going in this late game. But in a slate this large, they won't have as much ownership as they probably should because of just, the size of the slate, and people just tend to not shrink their pools enough. So again, I think if I had a core piece here that I was looking at playing in tournaments and GPPs, is I would kind of build around. I like this whole nucleus here. I could even get rid of this, I guess, if I wanted to. Boucher, he's gonna be popular, but I think there's outs there. I think this is where I would build around. And it still leaves you 5,800 left for 3 spots, and you can kind of move some pieces around. But I love this Powell Barnes. Both these guys got 40+ upside, and there's no real good spend up at the small forward position. So this is kind of where I would look at things. Again, point guard is almost locked in like that. I think if you want to get different at point guard, you can maybe look at going maybe a Fox as your pivot off of Lowry, or go like a Lowry-Fox combo if you don't want to go Schroeder. That would be the pivot for me. And Fox is going to be way less owned than Lowry, and he has massive upside against the Lakers because all the analytics are probably going to point towards you. It's a bad defensive matchup. Well, it's not the same team out there right now, so let's get real a little bit. So, if you did the math and pulled those guys out, they're not going to be the same team. But again, that's where I'm looking at it. Again, I will go back to the regular format as I usually do, but I wanted to get something out and just kind of talk through some lineups for you guys. And hopefully this helps out a little bit. And again, we got today and tomorrow, and then we got the All-Star break for 5 or 6 days. So enjoy some NBA today and tomorrow, and then we'll have a little bit of a break, and then we'll hit the second half of the season strong. So with that, I'm Cash Cake. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the flip side. Deuces.